Oh no, I clicked on the wrong frame. Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside Robby Sabo. What's up, Robby? How you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Ryan. Of all the jet shows out there, I prefer yours, but don't tell anybody.
I like you. You're my favorite Robby that I've ever had on this show. Don't tell anyone else.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So guys, if you have not, or if you do not know who Robby Sabo is, all his links are down in my description down below. Follow them. They've got a great website, great, YouTube channel, Jets X Factor. Lots of fun down there. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We got 63 in here already. Good start. So Robby, why don't you introduce yourself? Let everyone, all the passengers out there, kind of get an idea for who you are and why they should be listening to you.
Well, I've covered the Jets for, this is going to be my third year, if there is football, obviously. Owned DSNY, sold it in February 2020, created Jets X Factor, and JETSXFactor.com. Me and Michael Nania co-founded it with Joe Blewett, who was on your show about a month or two ago. He really knows his stuff. And it's a site where we're really pushing the analytics and film side of things. So brand new site, really pushing it. YouTube video as well, 3 podcasts as well. And we're just chomping at the bit. Hopefully football will be here soon, but we'll see.
I got my fingers crossed. They just, I think Jersey, as of July 2nd, is allowed to do 25% dining inside. That's the new word on the street.
Well, I mean, baseball's already scared off, right, with the outbreaks in Philly.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna fear the worst, to be honest, because I don't know what to expect.
Well, did you hear about 21 Clemson players that got COVID? So I mean, all you need is Dak Prescott to be behind his offensive line, and then his offensive line winds up getting COVID, and they're out for 2 weeks. And what's Dak gonna do with his $31 million contract now?
Yeah, or Jamal Adams gets it, and now he can't go to Dallas. Then,
oh man, that would be fantastic.
And that's Jones is screwed, and every Dallas fan is crying, and what a shame.
Oh yeah, could you imagine they got him for like the playoffs or something like that, or I guess to get into the playoffs. He got COVID just before it, and then he misses 2 weeks, and Dallas has to miss the playoffs because they missed those 2 games or something like that.
Jets fans would be upset.
Oh, I could definitely see where the Jets fans would be mad about that. Yeah. I don't know if you've paid attention to Twitter or Instagram or any of the memes going around about this whole Jamal Adams thing, but man, I would say we're going to have a bunch of calls later on with a bunch of fans that are not too thrilled with everything going on Jamal.
I've never seen a Jets player go from so beloved to so hated within the course of a week. Never in my life.
It's unreal. It was like 2 days. It was really quick. It was as soon as he said, what was it, on Instagram, I guess, he commented on someone's Twitter or commented on someone's Instagram saying something along the lines of like, oh, it's been real, or like, peace out, all love, or...
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's reading comments. He name searches himself in social media and reads comments and responds to them. And the question is, does he really gauge Jets fans based on social media? Or is this just an act where he could use that as an excuse? Because to actually gauge Jets fans on the vocal minority, which is social media, would be an insane thing to me. I couldn't even believe it if he did that for real.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, people got to understand that social media is there to get you to interact with a post or something. So if you go on Facebook, you're going to see the things that are most likely going to get you fired up. So generally that's, political things or things of that nature, but things that are going to get you to comment on people's posts. So Jamal seeing all these divisive things, that's all he's seeing nonstop. And it could be a very small minority. Now, I think the anger from Jet fans is a vast majority, but the bad stuff that he's reading is probably a pretty small minority.
Right, and it's meant to play on your emotion, get you either angry or really happy. And at this point, it has to just be a strategy by him, just to break ties as clean as possible and get out. I can't think it could be anything else, to be honest. He's too smart.
Field Yates had a tweet today, or he retweeted. Jamal Adams had a tweet, I guess. I think it was about, and actually, I think we were talking about it before. He tweets out, I believe he's talking about Marcus May. Yeah, Marcus May. I've been getting all this new fake love now. Shake my head was May's tweet. And then Jamal comes out and says, brother, you just keep being you. Show the world why you're the best free safety in the game. You deserve everything coming your way. I'm a miss balling with you the most. Believe that. Love you forever, brother. So he's talking like he is already out the door.
And that's the thing. He can't even wait 24 hours before he drops the next bomb to let everyone know, hey, I'm never playing for the Jets again. He can't even wait 24 hours. That's where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, like 15, 20 hours ago that we saw the video of him rolling up with the car and the guy going, yo, Jamal, you coming to Dallas? And he goes, I'm trying, bro, I'm trying. You got to be kidding me.
25% chance that's fake. That's this guy, and they set the whole thing up. I don't think it is, but there's a slight chance that it is because the same guy, someone said they had a connection, but I wouldn't take that to heart.
Yeah, I don't know. It just really seems like Jamal wants to be in Dallas more than anything else. I think he was really upset at the trade deadline when he was not traded to Dallas. I think that's the frustration we saw, not the frustration of him, possibly being talked about in a trade.
Yeah, I know your take is that he doesn't want to be here and hasn't since the beginning of last year, which I think could be true for sure. It's either that or knowing that Joe Douglas didn't hang up the phone right away irked him. And from that point on, that was the beginning of the end. And everything from there, no matter what was said, would just lead to the divorce. So I think one of those two things is true.
Yeah, for me, I think maybe the trade deadline was the final straw, because was it the first game of the season where Jamal was pulled out of the game by Gase for like 2 late hits or something like
Cleveland.
that?
Yeah.
Week 2.
Monday night. Yep.
I believe it was week 2 when he took all his social media about the Jets like off his social media completely. Right. So that was the first thing that was like, that's weird. That doesn't pass the sniff test.
It's highly emotional stuff.
Yes.
And kids like Jamal, who's a good kid, like Odell Beckham Jr., their machine, their phone, their social media is attached to them. It's part of who they are. So instead of thinking it, instead of dwelling on it, sometimes you'll get a first-hand look at what they're thinking, and it's exposed to the world right away, for better or worse. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Now, what's your take? Do you think we have Jamal for this season, or do you think they wind up trading him?
I think at this point, I just read an article that what we're seeing so far is normal. It's a take I haven't seen yet, that this is just negotiation and people need to calm down. I don't agree. There's a line you don't cross, and Jamal Adams crossed that line. To publicly, all 53 guys, 55 guys now, all 55 guys won't be happy with their contract. But when one of those guys crosses that line publicly and demonstrates a willingness to do anything to get his way, that's when all hell breaks loose. And that's when things aren't good anymore. And that's when Joe Douglas can't sign the guy and still say, hey, we want to build the best culture in sports, because then he's suddenly a hypocrite. And guys will look at him like, you've been preaching culture for a year, and then you sign a guy who's done all this, line stepping, who's crossed all these boundaries. So now he's in a no-win situation, and I think it's going to drag out, but not because Joe Douglas wanted to. I think at this point he would be willing to trade him and get proper value, but after the draft, it's really tough to get proper value. I mean, superstar for superstar deals just don't happen in the NFL. Like Clinton Portis for Champ Bailey all those years ago. It's really tough. So I think that's the reason it's going to drag out, because Jamal's not doing himself any favors by increasing his market value with all this noise. If anything, he's doing himself a disservice through all this noise. So I think it'll drag out probably into the season. And at this point, I didn't think he would hold out, but I think he will hold out. And I think that'll be the final resolution. And he gets traded before the trade deadline at some point.
Yeah, it's tough. Right now is probably the worst time to try and get value out of someone. When you get closer to the trade deadline, it feels like teams care more about winning than they do about their draft picks coming up for the following year. So waiting till the deadline is probably the smart move if you're the Jets anyway. There's something in the CBA where if you hold out I've read that you lose a year towards free agency, and I don't know if that's an accrued year, which you need 3 accrued seasons to hit free agency, which Jamal already has. He's played his 3 years. Or if he holds out, he loses one of those years. So maybe he's back down to 2 years that he is accrued towards free agency. I'm not exactly sure how that goes, but the Jets could really hold on to him. Not that I think they will. I think they're going to come to some type of solution at this point. It's interesting. I hadn't thought he was going to hold out into the season, but I could see it now. I could see him hold out until the Jets trade him at the deadline.
Right. And the thing about these players, they have no leverage. It's the CBA. If Jamal has anyone to be mad about, it's the players' union. It's the union. They negotiated the CBA, and sorry, I mean, what are you gonna do? Hold out? You're gonna hurt yourself. We just saw it with Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell holds out, and nothing really happens. This isn't the days of the '90s where Emmitt Smith could hold out for 2 games and Dallas, the defending Super Bowl champs, go 0-2, and they beg him to come back. So he really has no leverage except for making all this noise. And I really do think his dad plays a lot into it, because his dad, drafted in '85 by the Giants, got injured so quickly.
Yeah, it was his second year, I think, right?
Yeah, his career just blew up. He missed '86, so he missed the Super Bowl year. And it was Father's Day yesterday as well, and you saw a lot of George Adams on his Instagram posts. So he doesn't want to hold out, but I think he will, based on his principle, how loud he's gotten.
Yeah.
Just purely based on that. He doesn't want to. Don't get me wrong. That's the last thing he wants to do. So he's trying to make as much noise as possible to see if anything could move, see if anything could happen.
Yeah, I think if I were Joe Douglas, and even just Jet fans in general, I really would love to see them force him to come to camp as best they can, because I want him to face his teammates and really look him in the eye and say hey, I lied. I didn't want to be here the entire time.
Yep. And that's the other thing. Damon Harrison, Snacks, Jets fans know. He said on Twitter that if they signed him or he came to camp, it would be normal business as usual, because other players don't get in the personal business of financial business of other players. And that's true publicly. That's true on the surface. But in the game of football, even at this level, even though it's not said publicly, trust is a major thing. Trust is a major factor. So it does have some sort of impact. We just don't know the level of impact it will have.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you talk about guys that are putting their bodies on the line. You want to know that Jamal Adams is going 100%. If we bring him into camp, there's a real shot that he's dialing it back to 50%. Now, you could see injury at that point, but if you're not going 100% and now maybe Marcus May is not, I don't know, maybe he's in position to make a tackle, but because Adams did not go 100%, now May gets hurt or something squirrely happens like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You could never imagine Jamal never going 100%. He always does.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this time last year, you would have never imagined Jamal doing what he's doing now.
Yeah, no, not at all. This is the leader of men that I've been taught was going to be our captain, our everything, all about the Jets. I will never do anything to hurt this franchise when he was drafted, and it doesn't quite feel the same.
Yeah, that's tough to take now. Looking at that Deion Sanders interview after the draft, that's tough to take for Jets fans.
All right, guys, if you're just tuning in, down in the description down below is the links to all of Robby Sabo's social media, so make sure you follow him and all that good stuff. If you want your chance to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk store, there is a link in my description to the Jets Discord. Head to the Jets Discord, head down to the poll section, and just answer this question. Which player on the Jets are Jets fans upset about right now? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with Jamal Adams. So you can answer that in the Jets Discord and get yourself entered to win a hat, shirt, or mug. I'll raffle that off towards the end of the show. So Robby, if we are to trade Jamal Adams, what do you deem is fair value?
It's so much different after the draft as opposed to before the draft, and it's trickier too. What do? Do you hold out for a star player or a young player, or do you accept a package that's just assets, that's just draft pack? What do? Do you do that? It's so much tougher to get value at this point. I wrote this earlier. Was it last night? The dream for me, which is not going to happen, but the dream package would be a Chris Godwin like type player.
Yeah.
Jamal has the Bucks on his list.
Yeah.
His 8 teams, which he's willing to go to, but not be extended, not ask for the extension until next year. You might as well throw the 85 Bears and the 1927 Yankees on that list.
I saw that.
Geez, throw every single undefeated team, the 72 Dolphins. But I think Godwin is the dream, right? Could you imagine Godwin coming over? He's going to be a free agent. They have to sign him long term. Godwin would be the dream. Jamal loves Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Obviously loves Brady. So I think Godwin would be a dream type package.
Yeah, for me, I want one proven player and draft picks because I don't see a situation, like just from a mathematics standpoint, the first round of the draft, you have a 50% chance of busting. So even if you get a first and a third for Jamal, the chances of you actually hitting on one of those picks is relatively small.
Right.
So you got to get a player, whether it be like a Matthew Judon or a Gallup or a Godwin, I don't know, any sort of number of players. There's been I've seen all sorts of different teams sort of project trades for Jamal Adams, and I'm just like, man, they really think he's going to go for a second round pick? Like, I'm pretty sure the Jets could hold on to him all year, him not play, and they could get a first round pick next year.
Right. And the problem right now is we haven't even seen a single report where a team is interested. Have we?
Well, I've seen reports from I believe it was Samini that said that about half the teams in the league would line up to get Jamal and inquire about Jamal. So I don't know if any of those teams on his lists want him, other than probably they're probably all interested in him in some capacity. I don't think they're going to want it. I don't think they're going to hit what the Jets want, though.
Right.
Like at the trade deadline last year, it was rumored that it was a first and 2 seconds, I think, is what I had heard.
Right. And the other thing is that the trade deadline last year, Dallas, that info got out. And it's rumored that the Jets were very upset that info got out, that they and Dallas talked. So it is rumored, not confirmed, that Jets are mad at Dallas. That Douglas picked up the phone, talked to Dallas about Jamal, and the info leaked out. We don't know if it's true, but if that's true and they're mad, then maybe Dallas is off the table completely.
I hope so. I would love to send Jamal to an area that not that he doesn't want to be, but like I know he wants to be in Dallas. Oh, just it like irks me to no end. It's like I would love to see him. For me, I really like Yannick Ngakoue. If for some way or reason you could get him to Jacksonville, it's a non-income tax state, so he's going to get his money the same way he would get his money in Tampa, the same way he would get his money in Houston or Dallas. But you get that edge rusher that you want so desperately if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah, edge rusher has got to be number one, right? It's still the number one need by far. Edge rusher, corner, maybe receiver, number 3.
Those would be the 3 for me too, yeah.
Right, that would be the dream, and it's funny too. That would be ironic because Yannick Ngakoue is the other guy making noise this offseason.
Yep.
So much to a point where he's hurting his own trade value. He wants to be traded. He's telling Jacksonville it's over. Sorry, guys. He's doing it publicly on social media. So that would be ironic. Trade the 2 headaches and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Ngakoue, I mean, I would like a receiver. I don't know what Tampa Bay would be willing to give up. Like I don't know if Godwin would be like available. I feel like they're going to want to sign him long term. I almost feel
especially
like
with Brady.
Yeah. And especially because they're going in for that final year or 2. You got Gronk under contract for 1 season, you got Brady under contract for 2 seasons. So I feel like you could get the most amount of draft capital probably from Tampa Bay if they really wanted to go all in and just kind of sell their soul, similar to how we saw like Jalen Ramsey going to the Rams. Now that backfired pretty spectacularly for them. They didn't even make the playoffs. But I feel like you got to get a first and a third. I think that's the floor for me for Jamal. If you want to substitute a player, maybe you call it, like Judon in a second, or, I don't know. I want one proven player though. I don't want to roll the dice on just draft picks for Jamal.
I would agree. First and the third too. I'm with you on that, but it's tougher to accept just that after the draft, because you have to wait a whole year before it happens. Before the draft, okay, we're good to go. And then at the same time, what team is going to give up a first? I mean, it depends where they think they're going to finish that year.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it. Because a top 10 pick's much different than the 30th pick in the draft. What team's going to do that for a box safety? I know Jamal could do everything: play deep half, middle third, cover man, play the edge, run support, best edge run support safety in the league by far. But still, and I think safety, the value on safeties is up. I think safeties are actually more valuable. Strong safeties, not free safeties.
Yeah.
Strong safety is actually more valuable than corner in today's game because of the rules. There are no shutdown corners anymore. But still, teams have that idea where safety is not a prime position. So it's tough to get that return.
That's just it. Like, I've always kind of defended Jamal with a lot of, like, you hear the strong safety argument a lot. And I never really liked it because it's sort of the same way you want a mobile quarterback. Not necessarily a running quarterback, but a mobile quarterback, where you have something that gives the defense an extra pause, an extra half a second of a delay. Like, maybe if there's a threat that Sam could, run around the outside, that pass rusher that's crashing down on him might have to, maybe not go 110%, but go like 100%, like 90%. Or a corner that's really good, now the quarterback looks his way, takes him half a second to go the other way. And then all of a sudden the pass rush gets half a second longer to get to him. It's the same thing with the safety with Jamal. He could play all over the field. You have to account for him. So that's one extra thought that's in your head that could potentially slow your processing power.
Right. And think about what Brady has done to the Jets. He's killed them with tight ends, running backs. Since the league rules exploded and the passing game exploded in the late, 2007, 2008, around there, the running back out of the backfield, the vertical threat tight end, has really destroyed defenses. And the only way to shut down those mismatches is with a stud, versatile, strong safety. That's what Jamal Adams brings.
I got a super chat over here from James Carney. He said, "Ryan, are you sure you're not talking to Shane McMahon?" Holy shit.
Shane O'Mac. Yeah.
Dude, God, the whole Jamal thing
just... dad, I'd be laughing all the way to the bank. My God.
Be fantastic. Oh, God. The whole XFL, you run that? Well, I guess not anymore, right? That's all kaput.
Yeah, it's for the second time. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. I really like the second iteration of it. I think they had a lot of cool things that the NFL should try to adopt.
I kind of like the first. He Hate Me and the names on the back.
Oh, yeah.
It is a shame, but what are you gonna do? Hopefully listen, all I want is a season this year, honestly.
Turn up Robby's mic. All right, I got to turn up your mic because apparently someone. Let me see. Just try talking again.
Test.
There we go. That's a little bit better. All right. You're welcome, Shmuel. Shmuel. Whoever said it in the chat. Let's see. So do you think there's a team that you realistically see him going to more than another? Like, do you think Dallas is going to be where it winds up going, or you think it's going to be one of the other?
I don't. It's impossible to know, to be honest.
Yeah. Who would have thought the Bucks for Tom Brady? Everyone was on the Chargers and the.
Right. I think the most important question is, the most important factor is wherever he goes, the GM has to have balls.
Yeah.
Like the Bucks GM who gambled on Brady, got rid of Jameis Winston, a young quarterback, which is why I keep thinking Bucks. But I think that's the most important factor. But it comes down to Joe Douglas. It comes down to Joe Douglas and the willingness to take which package.
Yeah, this is going to be a defining moment for Joe Douglas' career, and he's only just over a year into it.
Right. And the other thing is, everyone's reminded of Darrelle Revis now because of his defensive back, contract issues, generational type player. But you can't compare that and say, okay, the wrong move is to get rid of Jamal because look what happened with Revis. You can't do that. It's about drafting well. It's about developing well. If you're doing those things, these types of decisions don't make or break the entire decade. So it really comes down to doing the right things.
Yeah, we haven't drafted well in forever. So this past draft was the first one I really felt happy with, I think, from an offseason and a draft perspective. Like, I was excited for Le'Veon Bell last year. I thought that was a smart signing, at least because Sam was going into his second year. We had way too much cap space to really spend on players that were going to make a difference last year anyway. I think Douglas is going to focus on the draft. I think he's going to build that team that way. Part of the reason I think Jamal is trying to ask for so much money, aside from not wanting to be on the Jets anyway, I think he wanted to be the highest paid player on that team, and that's Tremaine Johnson getting $17 million, C.J. Mosley getting $17 million. Mm-hmm. Jamal's lining up to try and get something similar to that. I think he's going to ask somewhere between $17 and $20 million, would be my guess.
And think about Joe Douglas and the path, the right way to go about things. Mm-hmm. He said something on the first day of the job McCagnon didn't say in 5 years. Mm-hmm. That it starts with the quarterback in both lines.
Yeah.
That is transparent. That is an old school team building philosophy that hasn't been uttered around here in a long time. So just by that and his actions with, I don't know how many offensive linemen has he signed or drafted in the last year? 8, 9?
A ton. I love, as much as the Khalil thing didn't work out, I love the swing at it. I think it's a good attempt when there's no free agents at that point. There's no one you're going to trade for. Try to pull an all-pro out of retirement. See if you can, catch lightning in a bottle with it. So I like that swing. I like the look at Fant. I'm not, wasn't sold on it when I first saw it. I talked to Joe Blewett. He kind of eased my mind a little bit on the whole Fant thing. I love Becton. I like McGovern. I think Lewis was fine last year. I mean, we have an entirely new starting offensive line compared to opening day last year.
And the thing about it is Joe Douglas is a former lineman. He knows competition drives that unit.
Oh, for sure.
Competition is what it's about. In the last 3-4 years, at this time, the offensive line starting positions were etched in stone. That's a bad thing. To have average starters etched in stone in June, that's terrible. I mean, right now, McGovern is starting. Becton's starting, hopefully.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Everyone else is going to be battling.
Yeah, everyone's up for grabs at that point. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see like any number of guys start. Like I think McGovern's the only one I'd really have penciled in to definitely start at center. Like Mekhi Becton, it wouldn't shock me if Fant started at left tackle and Becton started at right tackle for year one, or the opposite. Fant on the right.
It wouldn't shock me. Right. It wouldn't shock me, but it would be alarming, to be honest. Yeah. It would be really alarming.
He's so big. I think he's going to be fine year one. I mean, he's already one of the biggest people in the NFL.
I know. We wanted Wills. Everyone at Jets X Factor was rooting for Wills, but
one pick ahead of us.
Yeah, but listen, what can you do? Joe Douglas is finally the guy who delivered a first-round offensive lineman, which they haven't done since 2006, which was madness. You can't develop players properly if the line is not first settled. That's football 101.
Yeah, I mean, aside from, Chuma Edoga in the third round last year, I think our only other pretty high offensive line pick was Vlad Dukas in the second round, in 2010 maybe, or
2010.
Yeah, that's brutal.
It's just McCagnon, 3 offensive linemen in 5 drafts, 2 fifth-rounders, and Chuma Edoga. You just can't win that way. You can't, and that's the other thing. Certain players don't hit their ceiling. Their development is capped when the offensive line is not doing its job. And same thing with the 4-man pass rush on defense. So as scary as it is, Jamal Adams has been playing handicapped the last 3 years.
Oh, for sure.
Because the 4-man pass rush hasn't been up to snuff. But Joe Douglas has the right mentality. He really does.
Yeah, there was a very large part of me that wanted to see Jamal Adams with a good edge rusher, because his 6 sacks last year, while it's great for a safety, if you free him up and you have an edge rusher, imagine getting 6 sacks with a guy that's already getting 12 or something like that. Last offseason, I was pounding the table for Justin Houston. I was like, get me an edge rusher, get him for 2 years, draft a guy, and then let him sit behind Houston for a year or two. And obviously that didn't pan out at all.
That's got to be, for the Jets fan, that's got to be frustrating. Adams plays for Bulls, loves Bulls, plays for Gase, but that was McCagnon's team last year.
Yep.
And finally, Joe Douglas's team is going to take center stage, but Adams doesn't want to be around for that.
Yeah.
So that's got to be frustrating to the Jets fan,
Yeah, it definitely is. Joseph Del Polito, thank you for the super chat. He says, trade Jamal to Detroit for Galloway and late picks. I would love to just trade him to an armpit of a team like Detroit. I really
The
like,
venom coming from Jets fans
hurts.
is just,
It hurts more than anything.
I know the venom. I've never seen it for a player like this in a long time. I can't put my finger on it.
I don't know. I'm trying to think what player the Jets have had that we have hated so much. I mean, Geno was bad. That one.
Geno was bad, but
I don't know if I had that. I definitely don't have that type of hate for Geno that I do for Jamal right now.
Right.
Like
Geno,
maybe tail end Sanchez, like after butt fumble, like that was a pretty like painful thing to go to.
Right. Yeah, Geno was never popular, so he never had the decline like Jamal has. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know.
All right, guys, we are at 8:30 right now. I'm gonna start opening up the phone lines. Ask us your questions. We'll go through them. But guys, Robby's not going to be able to hear you on the phone, so keep your questions short so I can reiterate it, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll move on to the next call. So the phone number is going up on the screen once I find my little button here. Boom, phone number on the screen. So you guys can call in, ask us your questions, share with us your thoughts. If you guys want a shot to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk store, head down to the link in the description to the Jets Discord. Comment in the poll section, Jamal Adams. You'll get yourself entered to win a hat, shirt, or mug at the end of the stream.
From David Gangrene. To accept.
David, what's up, dude? Welcome to the cockpit.
What's up, Ryan? I've been watching, and I could barely hear Robby the entire time. The chat was going berserk.
I apologize. I turned up all the volume and everything, so I think everything's good now.
Oh, yeah, it looks like everything should be fine. But my question for you and Robby, and I actually talked about this earlier today, if Jamal Adams is gone, would you consider extending Marcus May? And if so, what kind of contract would you give him?
Ooh, good question. Good question, David. All right, so what David asks is, if Jamal Adams is gone, do you extend Marcus May? And if so, how do you do it? What's the game plan?
It's interesting because Greg Williams, because they don't have that edge rusher, Williams really developed an identity for that defense last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of pre-snap disguise zones, a lot of movement pre-snap, and it took a while. It took a while up until week 6, 7, 8, then the Giants game, and a lot of DB blitzing. So it featured the middle of the field. It featured May, Adams, Brian Poole, even the linebackers, Neville Hewitt in the Tampa 2, dropping in a deep third. I wouldn't be opposed to signing May long term if Jamal Adams is gone, but more importantly, Brian Poole. I think Brian Poole was the lone must re-sign this offseason because of that identity.
Mm-hmm.
He is huge to the middle of that defense. He plays, not only does he play man in the slot, he plays a lot of the Tampa 2 middle third deep zone that the linebackers would normally play. Greg Williams loves to do that from the nickel, from the slot corner. So, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Marcus May, but the thing about their situation is Ashton Davis is a deep safety.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a box safety. He can't replace Jamal Adams, at least I don't think. And I know for sure, not in the first year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a deep safety like May. So, unfortunately, May and Ashton Davis play the same position at free safety, deep safety, and they're missing that guy behind Jamal. So the Jets will have to let it play out and see how Davis plays as a rookie, how he comes along, and if May could stay healthy. Because remember, he's got to stay healthy again. He's got to prove that he could stay healthy.
Yeah, for me, I'm not extending May yet. I like May a lot. I actually think he would do well in a strong safety type role with Davis playing the free safety role. But for me, there's no reason to sign May right now. Let him prove it throughout an entire season with or without Jamal. And then at the very least, if he walks, you're probably getting a comp pick for him, unless you go on an entire wild spending spree this offseason, which I don't really see Douglas, doing. I think he's going to save that money for Sam.
Yeah, he's a value GM. He learned under Ozzie Newsome. It's all about value. It's not about winning the headlines with him. It's not about winning the off-season headlines. So, yeah. And as in terms of Marcus May playing strong safety, he can. He might be able to. I need to see a lot more. He tried against Baltimore last year and struggled a little bit when Jamal was out. But that would be interesting to see if May could play strong and Davis play free. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I think if Jamal does wind up holding out and we wait until the trade deadline, I think that makes things a little bit more clear. When we took Davis, I had envisioned the Jets probably signing Jamal long term, keeping Davis, and then possibly flipping May at the trade deadline, pending what our record is. If we're kind of losing a little more games and we don't think we have a shot at the playoffs, you move May to see what you can get prior to letting him walk in free agency. I'm going to open up the phone lines again. Remember, keep the question short so that way I can reiterate the question because Robbie's not going to be able to hear you. And if you want to follow Robby, down in the description down below, all the links to all his social media are down there. Make sure you give him a follow because he knows his stuff. All right, caller on the line.
Call from
Omar Mendoza.
What's good, brother? Welcome to the cockpit.
Hey, what's going on? Omar Mendoza here, long Jets fan from Rich Kotite era.
Nice. Some painful times.
Oh, yeah. I'm calling again with the Jamal Adams deal here. What are the possibilities, and I've been saying this for the past few days, I'm a big loyalty guy. When you show loyalty to me, I show loyalty to you. What are the possibilities that Joe Douglas does something like just suspends him and lets him sit and rot until he makes like a public apology to his teammates, to the organization, to the coaches, and learns to just abide by the contract he signed? And then we revisit some sort of, contract extension if he does what he's supposed to do.
Interesting. That's an interesting thing. So what Omar's saying is that he's a very loyalty-driven individual, and you respect me, I respect you, that whole kind of thing. So with Jamal Adams, do you think there's any situation where Joe Douglas suspends Jamal Adams for conduct detrimental to the team? And how does that play out? Does he wait till he issues an apology? Does he know he won't issue an apology? Does he just let him, sit on ice?
Good question. We'll all know the first week of training camp.
Yeah, that's honestly what's going to happen. It's going to be like right there.
How does Jamal, the first day really, how does Jamal act on the first day of training camp?
Is he even there?
What is he doing on that day on social media? We'll know on that day. And then as it progresses, I could see Joe Douglas doing any number of things. I'll tell you this, he wouldn't be afraid to pull the trigger on anything if he thinks it's the right thing for the team.
Yeah.
He's a team and value guy over any individual, no matter who it is. That's just what he believes. He's an old school team builder, and that's what he'll do moving forward.
He is one of the few guys in this organization. I would say Greg Williams is the first that I have total blind trust in. Like whatever Greg Williams believes in, do it, you got it. 100% autonomy with the defense. With Joe Douglas, I'm cautiously optimistic with everything I got to see this offseason. The free agents make sense. I was pounding the table for Perriman if we lost Robbie Anderson, so I was very happy with that. I like the McGovern signing. I like the way we address the offensive line. I really like Mims. I love all the picks that this guy made for the most part. And I'm really excited to see what this team does, especially last year we had $81 million worth of salary tied up on the IR, and then you have Sam with mono. So it last year was such a crapshoot of a season. You could just throw all the stats and everything right out the window.
Yeah, you really can't judge anybody, and even no matter what your feeling is on Adam Gase, can't judge anybody based on losing a quarterback over 3 weeks, and that offensive line is just terrible. Listen, do I have my doubts about Gase? Absolutely. No question about it. But it's tough to judge any person in such a situation. It really is.
Yeah, I would say this. Any head coach that we had for this season, last season, probably was going to be set up for failure regardless. You can't have that many players get injured and then lose your quarterback at the same time and just expect to have any sort of a good season. I said at the beginning, when our schedule actually came out, and I saw that we had the week 4 bye and we had Buffalo, then the Browns, and then the Patriots. And I told a lot of Jet fans, hey, statistically speaking, if you start the season 0-3, which against the Browns and the Patriots, we were definitely going to be considered underdogs. The Bills were our most likely win of the first 3 games. You start 0-3, you got like a 2% chance to make the playoffs. So your season is over before it begins. And as soon as Sam went down, everything went down the shitter.
Yeah, they were up 16-3 in the fourth quarter against Buffalo, week 1.
Yeah.
Listen, with Gase, the injury stuff is strange. In Miami, Tannehill played 24 of a possible 49 games, 48 plus 1 playoff game. I can't judge his quarterback guru skills in that situation. Under half the games, that's insane. So the Tannehill stuff last year, I just couldn't buy. Like, look at Tannehill having all this success, but the injury stuff is a little strange. They fired the head trainer. What was it, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was last week.
Yeah, last week, and that's probably the last non-Jamal Adams bit of news to come out.
Yeah,
and just communication, the overall feel with Gase and the whole environment is something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, this feels like a powder keg, and this could be the start of a pretty frustrating season for us if it continues this fashion. For me, my little glimmer of hope with Adam Gase, part of it is Joe Blewett's amazing film review and being able to kind of talk me off a cliff with Adam Gase, and the other part of it is seeing really prominent players in this league like Peyton Manning, like Demaryius Thomas, like Frank Gore, who publicly back Adam Gase and say this guy knows his stuff. These are, like, maybe not Thomas, but Hall of Fame caliber guys that are vouching for Adam Gase, and like, it just, there's got to be something to it. That's not something that just comes around. Now maybe they're just older and they gave him a shot, and that's why they're so happy with him. But I don't know. I'd like to believe that there's more to Adam Gase than what we've kind of seen as fans.
No, his concepts are good. His concepts do work, and when you see his concepts, you can understand where those people are coming from when they back him. But that's play calling. That's play calling. Is he a head coach? That's the question. And when you look around the NFL, the Jets employ the structure where there's really 2 head coaches, Adam Gase and Greg Williams. Usually that doesn't result in championships. You know, you look at Belichick, he reigns supreme. You look at, I'm blanking on the other ones, but there's structures where the head coach doesn't call the plays and he delegates. And then the Chiefs last year, where the kind of Andy Reid still reigns supreme, but he still has Spagnuolo on the other side who calls the plays. So it can work, the structure. And you could see Gase's play calling. His concepts are good, but is he a head coach? Of course, that question lingers big time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see Gase. Like, if we have a bad year, I don't see him getting canned middle of the season. The Johnsons have never fired a coach mid-season before. I could see them letting him go after this year. He was never a threat to lose his job year one. There was no way that was going to happen. The Jets are still paying Todd Bowles last year, so that would mean they're paying 3 different head coaches for this season if they were to let him go.
Right.
I see them giving him this entire year. If we go 7-9, but it looks like a better 7-9 than we got last year. Like, last year was not a good 7-9. That was a bad 7-9. It was no Big Ben against the Steelers and the Bills backups. Like, those are 2 gimme games that we got at the end of the year that we really could have lost. That all of a sudden turns into a 5-11 year and is, totally different than what we were talking about now.
Right. I think it comes down to Darnold too, right? Darnold's progress. What does that look like? What's his TD to interception ratio? I think that'll be the big thing with Gase. And how does the offensive line play? Again, if it's a disaster, what do you do? I don't know. But the harmony, the overall chemistry, that'll be important to keep an eye on in July and August.
It's amazing that we brought in Jamal to be this culture changer and this, like, the guy that's going to lead us into the future of this Jets organization, and he is everything but that at this point in time.
It's tough to, and the Jets are playing it right. They're not saying anything, and they continue to say we want him to be a Jet long term. But at the same time, while we think Jamal has a motive and a strategy to get out, we don't know what the Jets are thinking. Maybe they're thinking we don't want to pay a safety big money. Yeah. Maybe they're thinking that, but they don't want to publicly say that, because if you look at Joe Douglas, would he have signed Le'Veon Bell? I don't think so.
No.
Would he have signed Mosley? I don't think so. I think he believes in old school principles in terms of the salary cap. So it could be true where the Jets don't want him, but they're just publicly playing the right game. It'll be interesting to see. To be honest, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, the whole Jamal thing, Jamal's time and May's time has been on the clock since they drafted the two of them back to back. You knew they weren't going to be able to re-sign both of them. And the way we used our assets with Mike McCagnon feels completely backwards to what Joe Douglas wants. Like when we signed Mosley, I was like, that's weird. I did not think that was coming at all. We had a very good season from Avery Williamson. I believe, did we have who's the linebacker that's now with the Saints?
DeMario
Davis. We had him that last year, I think, with Avery. Year one with Avery, prior to getting Mosley, I think. Or was he the year before that?
I think he was the year before that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the whole Mosley thing didn't make any sense. And we overpaid him by like $3 million, too. It was like a drastic overpay.
To pay an inside linebacker that money in a day where 11 personnel and nickel, more DBs are on the field than ever, more inside linebackers are off the field than ever, is a tough thing to do. And McCagnon, I don't know if he did it because he truly believed that was the right thing to do, or he needed the publicity, or he needed just the 2 extra wins to save his job. But it's just not the right move to pay an inside linebacker and running back big money when the infrastructure is not first set. You need to build the infrastructure first.
What kills me is everything the Bills did last offseason was exactly what the Jets should have done. And it's what we did this offseason. We followed the Bills mold for this year. And I think it's the right way to go about building your team.
It is. They signed who was the offensive lineman the Bills signed last year from the Chiefs?
Mitch Morris.
Yes, they just continued hammering home the inside. Ed Oliver, obviously. Is he that much better than Quinnen Williams? Again, it comes down to situation in a lot of these instances, like Darnold and Goff. What if the Jets drafted Goff and the Rams drafted Darnold? Do the Rams make the Super Bowl? Is Darnold a champion right now?
I think Sam's legit. I really do.
Everything depends on situation.
Yeah.
If Lamar Jackson's on the Jets, is he the MVP? No shot.
Probably not.
So Ed
Not
Oliver,
with that offensive line.
Yeah, no shot. So Ed Oliver, Quinnen Williams, we still don't know. We honestly still don't know. I didn't want Quinnen based on personnel. You need to complete the line. You need to complete the unit, and you need edge. So I was banging the drum for Josh Allen. But still, you can't give up on Quinnen yet. No shot.
Yeah, that's just it. I don't think I have the stat pulled up anymore, but there was I believe it was Carlos Dunlap. It might be Shaq Barrett, and I'm losing the name of the other guy, but it was like interior defensive lineman who only had like 3 sacks year one, 13 tackles. I guess it wasn't 13 tackles. I don't remember the exact numbers it was, but they were all very similar to what Quinnen had last year, and then they all blew up, and they're all phenomenal interior defensive linemen. So there's plenty of time for Quinnen.
Right, plenty of time, and he's that 3 tech. I mean, he actually started at like a 1 tech nose tackle last year because they had Leo at that 3 tech, but he should be in better position this year. He's that 3 tech who's fast, sideline to sideline speed is fast. Again, he still needs edge. They need an edge guy to step up, and if that edge guy steps up, Quinnen could be a beast for sure.
That's going to be huge. TJ Decker, thank you for the super chat. He says, ask Robby about expectations for Sam. So what do you expect to get out of Sam Darnold this year? What's a successful season?
I think as long as the offensive line is average, top 16, top 15, I expect a semi-breakout year.
Yeah.
Not Pro Bowl, not fully bust out, but semi-breakout where he's over 25 touchdowns, somewhere in between 15 to 20 picks. He'll always throw picks. He's a gunslinger. He takes chances.
It's just part of the package.
Yeah, and, close to 4,000, over 4,000 yards. So I would describe it that way, semi-breakout, right under that level of breakout, as long as the offensive line is legit.
Now, do you think is there a certain number you have to see touchdown to interception wise, or is it just kind of a feel you get from him?
Just a feel. Some of the stuff you're watching, like how's his footwork?
Yeah.
His footwork last year was awful. and it was something coming out of college that was bad. But his footwork last year was awful. He had happy feet. He threw from an open position. Stepped his foot in the bucket all the time. If you always see him throw, he throws from an open position like a batter in baseball. And part of it comes from just sloppiness with his footwork because he could throw on the run so great. But that, and also post-snap reads. Sometimes he'll lock onto a player, a weapon pre-snap, and never get off that guy. So I think watch for that stuff, like his footwork. Is it sound? And that's big on Adam Gase to make sure it is, because he got worse from year 1 to year 2 with footwork and progressing through his reads as well. That's another big thing that we really should watch for in preseason.
Yeah, I think the offensive line is really going to be what makes or breaks this team this year. I think if we do get a top 16 line, like you said, I think there's no reason that we can't see Sam throw for 37 to 4,000 yards. I mean, I could see 30 touchdowns. I could see probably 15 to 20 interceptions. Like if he's slinging it around like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to see him progress. I want to know he's the future. I mean, I feel like he is, but I want to know it.
And by the way, I think their weapons are severely underrated.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's got weaponry that's better than people think. Bell, I never wanted Bell, and it wasn't personal. I like Bell. I think he did everything perfect last year. He was the perfect soldier. He was great in the locker room. People were hammering him. His yards per carry was 3.3, 3.2. His offensive line was terrible, and he did everything what Jamal Adams is not doing.
Yeah.
And think about it. I'm getting off topic now, but Le'Veon Bell, when he held out, I don't remember this much noise coming out of Pittsburgh or coming out of social media when he held out. It was more business-like. He just held out and, did his thing and kind of faded away. But with Bell, Gore, and P. Ryan, which I think are really going to split time, I don't think Bell's going to be a workhorse.
Yeah.
Mims, Perryman, I think Perryman's more talented than Robby Anderson by far.
Yep.
But I think Robby Anderson's more reliable because Perryman's been hurt way too much.
Robbie's only missed like no games. Maybe one game, I think.
Yeah.
Is what he's missed.
Yeah. Perryman could do a lot more on the sideline, a lot more in terms of 50-50 balls. But Robby Anderson is more reliable. I would say that. Mims, Crowder, and I like Vincent Smith and Braxton Berrios. I like those two kids too. Herndon has to prove he could stay healthy. But as long as health is there, I think the weaponry is fine. It's just a matter of getting their ceilings up to reach the development they can reach if the line is secure. I think it comes down to that. Yeah,
I'll be honest. A lot of people gave Sam but the Jets a lot of crap for not having weapons. And it's like, well, wait a second. Herndon was really good, and then we lost him last year to injury after the suspension. I am really excited to see that. We saw Griffin play well with Sam. I think the tight ends are going to be a big focal point to this team, and that could be why we didn't double dip at wide receiver in the draft. I really wanted to see us go after like maybe a Gandy Golden or some type of receiver in like the rounds 4 through 7 at some point, just to take a swing at it. And maybe they're thinking more tight end. And then you got the running backs that, they're all kind of different. Gore's going to pound it up the middle. Bell's more of a finesse back. I look at P. Ryan, and at least from a little bit of highlights that I saw, he feels like a young Bilal Powell.
And he's
like a
Bell
one cut.
Yeah, he does everything. He catches out of the backfield. He could run it between the tackles. He could run it on the edge. In terms of the second receiver in the draft, I was expecting another receiver as well. But look at it last year. Enunwa, on paper, what was it? Robby Anderson, Enunwa, Crowder. People just felt better with those three because Enunwa was a safe name. He really wasn't safe. He was injured all the time. Yeah. But Jets fans knew he had talent. If you look at those three versus these three, Perryman, Mims, and Crowder, I'm taking these three every day of the week. Yeah. When I look at it, I think of Mims plus Perriman is better than Robby Anderson and Demaryius Thomas. Like that's the way I sort of look at it. You see the scale kind of tip entirely. I'm really excited for Mims. He's someone that I wanted at we were picking 48th overall. I was like, yes, we're gonna get him. We got him or Diggs, one or the other.
And we trade out, and I'm like, oh, no.
And
They're going to blow it. They're going to blow it.
That's the thing with Joe Douglas. The ball's on this guy to drop down, trade down, wait for Mims, know he's going to get him. And the other examples are Brian Poole and Jordan Jenkins.
Yeah.
He didn't overpay these guys. He said, listen, I know where the market is. I know where the value is. You guys are going to go around, ask for more. I know which teams are talking to you. And then you're going to come back. And that's exactly what happened. So instead of overpaying, because when you overpay and you overpay the market with players, the league finds out. Other players find out. They talk to each other. They go, hey, the Jets could be had. Use the Jets. And that's what happened the previous, 5 years. And Joe Douglas put an end to that in more ways than one. Yeah,
I mean, you saw it happen with, what was it? It was Revis. It was Cromartie. It was Tremaine Johnson.
Tremaine
God,
Johnson.
just across the. I mean, then you got Bell and you got Mosley, and it was just we were getting fleeced at like non-premium positions.
Yes, it's there's a lot of, and that's the thing with Jamal. What do you do? What do you do? Like, say tomorrow he says I'm sorry, and he has a, Jesus moment, and he wakes up and says, oh, I want to be a Jet. I've been acting foolish. What do you do? What do you do? Sit down with him and re-sign him? What do you do if you're Joe Douglas?
Nope, I sit and I'll let him play out at least this year. You roll the dice, see how it goes. If you get something good before the draft, you swing him after next year.
Yeah.
I don't think you give someone who has acted like this the money, not even the money he wants, but even a reasonable contract. Like even $15 million a year to make him the highest paid safety. I'm not doing that to this guy that's already proven to me that he doesn't want to be here. He's not all in with this team. Like the worst thing that could happen is you sign this guy to massive money. He gets a big signing bonus, and then now you're forced to trade him because he's gone off the handles, and then you eat the whole signing bonus.
That's a huge point. When you sign a guy to these contracts, you have to make sure they're all in, because if they're not and they suddenly want out, look at Odell Beckham Jr. No, he didn't request a trade, but he brought Lil Wayne onto the set. What was it, ESPN or NFL Network, one of the two.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure these guys are all in. And the other thing is, New Yorkers and New Jerseyans are struggling right now during this COVID time.
It's huge.
This is terrible timing. Terrible. I don't know if Jamal knows this. If he does, is it a tactic to really get everyone to hate him? I don't know. But to pick this time to do what he's doing is another tough thing, which I don't think fans will be able to forgive him for.
Yeah, it's tough. The whole COVID thing's huge because you got guys that are out of work. You got people that are struggling financially. He's making millions. He's making $7 million this year. He's going to make $9 million next year on his 5th-year option. So to ask for a contract, especially when you have Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl MVP, who still has not gotten his contract. So why would Jamal get his contract first? Like, yeah, we saw McCaffrey get his. We saw Tunsil. Tunsil was a draft class earlier. Myles Garrett, they're talking about a contract now. All those guys have been significantly more impactful in the win-loss column than Jamal has been.
Yeah, you want to play for the Panthers or the Browns? I mean, they're not the, they're not vintage winning organizations. So I wouldn't, if I was Jamal, I wouldn't point to them and say, hey, look at how this organization is treating these guys. I don't know. He's playing the business game, and I think it's the worst route for him. I think it's just going to bite him in the ass in the end.
The one thing he had going for him stronger than probably any other player with this franchise was that he had the fans behind him. He could have manipulated a scenario in such a way where the fans were entirely behind him. The Jets were playing hardball and not maybe giving him the contract. The fans would have been on his side. Now that everything's kind of come out this way, that tells me he doesn't want to be here. I think he's trying to kind of push some buttons and force his way out.
Right. And I think knowing the kid, how emotional he is, how he wears his heart on his sleeve, I think it does hurt him to do what he's doing. I think it hurts him because I think he did care about the Jets fan, but I think he needs to. He's the type of guy who has to be. It has to be all or nothing. It has to be 100% or 0%.
Yeah.
So if he's gonna make this move, he's gonna do it with the most ferocity possible, just to rip it off like a Band-Aid, so he doesn't have to think about it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's that mentality where I think he shares with OBJ, and it just nothing will ever be good enough.
It's that LSU
ways.
diva. Are we prepared to see this from Joe Burrow in 3 years' time with the Bengals? I want out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, those LSU
the hometown
guys.
kid.
Man, those LSU kids, I don't know what's in the water down there.
I don't know. Just a bunch of crawfish and I don't know. That's just terrible down there. V-Man, thank you for the super chat. He says, "Hey, found out my high school teacher with the 68 Jets autographs on 2 footballs has never had it appraised. By the way, Robby, the Beatles' last concert newer than Super Bowl III." Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a while for the Jets. It is. I'll tell you. I remember Coslet, where it was my first days as a young Jets fan, Bruce Coslet. So I experienced Bill Parcells in high school in '98. And if you think about it, that age from Bill Parcells on was the golden age of Jets football.
Oh, yeah. It was almost every other – it was like every other year we were making the playoffs.
Yeah, 7 playoff appearances from '60 to '96. And then Parcells takes over, and then he makes 7 playoff appearances from '97 through 2010 with his team. Not him, but, with his team afterwards.
I mean, that foundation, you talk about the 4 first-round picks. We took Abraham with one of those picks. We flipped Abraham for Mangold, later on. So his fingerprints were still all over this team a decade later.
Right, and it's ironic because, meanwhile, a lot of people blame him for the Belichick situation. And Belichick going to New England and then and New England dominating, dominating during the time where the Jets were experiencing one of their best decade and a halves in franchise history. So it's tough.
We've had to sit through Tom Brady. We've had to sit through Marino. We've had to sit through Jim Kelly. Luckily, I was not of the I was not of an old enough age to have to really deal with Kelly. Marino, I caught like the tail end of when I was younger, and just 20 years of Brady. It's our time. We need Sam to just like come on out like a gangbuster. I just want to see him like throw for 5 touchdowns week 1 all over Buffalo, I could just like
relax, take a deep breath until next week.
Exactly. Then the wheels fall off.
I think the good thing is a lot of quarterbacks can make it in this league. It's gone from there could only be like 5 guys have the talent to be superstar quarterbacks in the 80s to maybe 20 guys have the talent to be superstar quarterbacks now because of the rules, because of how pass happy and easy it is. It's just a matter of opportunity and situation. And I think Darnold falls in that 20 who can possibly do it.
Well, what's crazy is I remember seeing posts back when Chip Kelly took over the Eagles, and he was bringing in, I think it was the Oregon quarterback at the time, not Mariota.
How long ago was this?
Oh, God, I don't know. Well, they were talking about how like Chip Kelly wanted to run a 2-quarterback system in Philadelphia. And the idea was, could he devalue the quarterback position enough to not have to have a $20 million a year quarterback, or I think at that time it might have been like $18, $17 million a year quarterback, and then you can just kind of go with a cheaper option. Are we seeing a point where the rules have become so easy and quarterback salaries have blown up so much, maybe it's worth having a quarterback only on the rookie deal, and then like you franchise him, kind of like the way the Redskins did? Because once they sign that big quarterback contract, you're probably giving up on winning a Super Bowl with that quarterback.
Yeah, it sucks. When you sign that contract, it's rough. It's rough. Are we getting to that point? I think they'd really have to keep going north with the money to an insane point where they're like, all right, this is enough. Like, there's got to be different ways to go about it, go about building a championship team. But yeah, that's interesting. I think more and more franchises are understanding it's about trench play, it's about offensive line and defensive line play. And a lot of teams got away from that crazily, in my opinion. And I think they're starting to come around to that idea again. Because when you look at every playoff team, every year, the offensive line is ranked high by PFF. Every single team, every year. The Niners, is Jimmy Garoppolo that good?
Yeah,
look at the running backs. Look at the running backs in the Super Bowl last year. Mostert and Damian Williams.
Clearly, the offensive line is the the way to go.
I mean, it's just trends, and it sucks too because the running backs do get screwed. They do get screwed financially due to that situation.
Yeah, I would say from what I've seen over the last decade, I think the last CBA that they signed hurt the league a lot from a development perspective. It limited the amount of two-a-days and the amount of time that offensive lines could really have to gel. And I think, I mean, maybe some of it is the college system and they're not necessarily running pro-style offenses and having maybe traditional blocking schemes and they're running more spread concepts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that last CBA took a while for the NFL to adjust because they didn't realize the repercussions of having those limitations on practice until, probably year 3, year 4 of that CBA. And now it's, I don't know, we're not going to get those practices back.
No, and no, you're right. Both are factors. No practice. It's like the preseason is September, and they really don't snap into it until October. And spread offenses really do take it. The one thing is, though, with Lamar Jackson, Greg Roman, that zone scheme, maybe the NFL's going to that more of a full-time nature. We saw it with Robert Griffin and Kaepernick and Tebow, 2012, where the Wildcat put pressure on the edges of the defense, and then it turned into read option schemes, and then defenses caught up. And then it went back to the pocket passer. And then Cap and Griffin kind of faded away. And Kaepernick, that's a whole nother subject. But, and Greg Roman, who ran Kaepernick's offense, is now doing it with Lamar Jackson again. Can that be sustained? We'll see. And if it is sustained, you'll see a lot more offenses like that, and maybe the offensive line play starts to feel a little more matched with the college game if it does take hold.
Now, do you think, for me last year, one of the things I really wanted to see Sam do a lot, or at least not a lot, but a few times a game, I wanted to see the RPO. I felt like he's got enough mobility to kind of fake an end, and I'm hoping the reason we didn't see it is because of the whole mono thing, and they didn't want to open him up to bigger shots, risk rupturing that spleen. Do you think Adam Gase is going to incorporate some RPO into this offense, or do you think he'll kind of stay the traditional route and, see more what we saw with like Peyton Manning a la Denver?
I do. How much they'll run it, I don't know. And I think it was in their playbook last year too. But on top of the mono, it's about the offensive line. Yeah. Does the offensive line have the talent to get it done? Gase wants to run his own scheme, even though he does do gap principles a lot. He wants to run his own scheme. He wants athletic offensive linemen. Fant fits that mold. McGovern fits that mold to a degree. Becton obviously does. No matter, he's really quick for his size. So I think you will see that. I think you will see that this year for sure.
Tom Stokes, thank you for the super chat. He says, at similar ages, how do you think Darnold with NFL experience will compare to Joe Burrow with pro-style college experience?
Man, that's an impossible question.
It's so hard because you look at that LSU team that they had a loaded team. I mean, that thing was incredible. Those wide receivers that were like second and third guys are going to be first round picks easily this year.
I have to admit, I think Burrow's a little overrated coming into this year. But again, it comes down to the scheme, the talent in front of him. So we'll see. I don't know. I think Burrow can make it at the same time, but I think a lot of these quarterbacks at the top of the draft are overrated. I was not a Mariota fan when he came in. I did like Jameis Winston in the same draft. Speaking of the Darnold class, I did not like Baker Mayfield. But I did.
I was Broadway Baker, because I thought Sam was going one. I liked Sam number one. Sam was my number one. I thought Baker was going to be there at number 3, and that was going to be our guy. I was ecstatic like Rosen. When we got Sam.
I did like Rosen, though.
Rosen was my third.
I did like Rosen, and I thought Josh Allen was getting a raw deal. I know he's not the most accurate quarterback, but the man could play in the league. I mean, I think he was getting a raw deal.
I like Josh Allen a lot. I shouldn't say that as a Jet fan, but I enjoy the way he plays because it's so interesting. It feels like Cam Newton almost. Which obviously they have the the connection with the Panthers with the GM and everything, and it just I don't know. He's huge. He's 6'5" monster.
They both run quarterback powers. They try to hurdle defenders. They play like a gutsy game, where they're not afraid of contact.
Yeah. Jersey Joe, thank you for the super chat. Name your top 3 undrafted free agents to make the roster this year. God, I did not do the research I need to into our undrafted free agents. I know Huff is a very popular one for a lot of Jet fans.
That's the most important one.
Yeah,
Bryce
that's
Huff,
the edge rusher.
Because they need that position. And more than needing that position, they need an athletic guy in that spot. Because Jordan Jenkins is not an athletic guy. He's a bull rusher. Henry Anderson is really an interior guy. Kyle Phillips is really an interior guy because they didn't have that edge guy last year. You saw Henry Anderson and Kyle Phillips and Kafusi out there. So they need an athletic guy who could play in space. Zuniga, Bryce Huff for sure. I would say Bryce Huff, Lawrence Cager at wideout. And third one, we'll go with Lamar Jackson at corner.
Yeah, obviously the popular name that I think a lot of people, when we were watching the draft, everyone was calling for Lamar Jackson. Mainly, I think, because of the name. But
it's amazing.
He's a pretty big guy, too. He's like 6'1", I think.
And that's the thing. These corners, these Jets corners aren't great man-to-man cover corners, but they went after a certain prototype. They went after the zone-type corner, where, Bless Austin, Arthur Mallett, Desir,
you got Hall in the 5th round.
The kid from Auburn. Yep, Hall. They fit the zone scheme that Greg Williams likes to run.
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. What did you think about the? I'm watching my little thing on the side scroll up with all the the picks we made. What did you think about the James Morgan pick in the 3rd or 4th round?
It definitely shocked me. You don't expect quarterback, but if there's a spot to take a shot, that would probably be it. Especially if the reports are true that other teams are really in love with him, namely the Pats.
Yeah.
So, you need – listen, in 2000, no Pat fan in the world was expecting Tom Brady to come out of nowhere and be what he is. You have Bledsoe, you think he's your guy. As much as every Jets fan loves Sam Darnold, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You never know what's going to happen the next season. So having Joe Douglas's goal was to have depth at every position, and Morgan and Flacco just fit that depth spot at the quarterback like every other spot on the depth chart.
Yeah, for me with Morgan and Flacco, I feel like Flacco is very much the same mold as Morgan with that kind of big arm. It almost feels like Flacco's in here to help Morgan progress into our future perennial backup quarterback than it is Flacco kind of teaching Sam, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does, because Flacco has the prototype like Morgan. The only difference is Morgan could run. Morgan's athletic. But other than that, everything else matches up perfectly. So that does make sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see what questions are popping up in the chat. A lot of guys are saying Carter, Cager.
Shyheim Carter, yep, the safety.
It's going to be interesting to see. As far as the Jets draft picks go, obviously excited for Mims, obviously excited for Becton, because watching him throw players around the way he did at Louisville is going to be something that I'm looking forward to week 1. I hope Zuniga is good. It falls back on that edge rusher again. I just want the rusher to be there. We haven't seen one since Abraham, and it's just been brutal.
Yeah, and Becton, it's funny. His conference call after the draft, the Jets conference call, when the reporters said, hey, Becton, how you feeling? Congratulations. Who was that? Your dad in there with you in the room? It looks like he could be signed by the Jets too.
Yeah, he was huge. That might be one of the biggest humans I've ever seen. He was standing next to Mekhi Becton, who is probably the biggest human I've ever seen.
I won't name the reporter, but it was a funny take on the situation. Becton, I must admit, of the 4 offensive tackles, Becton scares me the most.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because you don't know his longevity. But hey, I can't get on it. If he turns out to be a bust, I will not get on Joe Douglas. No shot.
Not at all.
I will never get on him for that pick, ever.
No, it was the right move. I was a big CeeDee Lamb guy, but that was more so because I thought all the top tackles would be gone, or at least the top 3 tackles, and then I sort of had the assumption that maybe Douglas doesn't like tackle 4, whoever that tackle was going to be. I'm 100% behind the left tackle, and I don't care if that pick busts because it's the right pick.
Yeah, the whiteout class was so deep too.
You can't take one that early.
Mims reminds me of AJ Green.
I
really
like
reminds
Mims a
me
lot.
of AJ Green. He's got that sideline game. His toes around the sideline are already like a seasoned vet. He really reminds me of AJ Green. I think you can't be upset with Joe. Ashton Davis was surprising.
Yeah.
Because he's really raw. Watch Joe Blewett's film room on him. He's a deep safety for sure, but he's really raw. His instincts, I don't know if his instincts are there to be ready day one as the third safety in the big time. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think for me, I want to say it was that second, or it was the beginning of the third round. Oh, God, who was the edge rusher? There was an edge rusher that went like one pick ahead of us that I was so mad when, and I can't think of what the guy's name is off the top of my head right now.
I think I had the same feeling as you, but I can't remember who it was either.
It's going to kill me. Bumtaz, thank you for the super chat. He says, Jets can't bend to Jamal's BS. Then every other guy would do the same. If you set bad precedent, Jets need to let him rot on the bench if they have to. Now, this is something I kind of brought up, and it's not so much a let the guy sit and rot kind of thing, but if you give Jamal a contract after year 3, you better believe Sam Darnold and Quinnen Williams will both be in line to get contracts after year 3. And you said it before, if players think the Jets can be had for money, they're going to try and do it.
Really quick, Julian Okwara from Notre Dame.
That was it.
One pick right before Ashton.
Yep.
No, he's right. Setting bad precedent is not good. When a guy makes noise like this, it's not good for the long-term future. But then you go back and say, what's the point of not paying players when you have them? Well, it's the hard salary cap. If there was no hard salary cap and no strategy behind it, of course paying Jamal Adams is the right move.
Oh, yeah.
But it's about the hard salary cap, and it's about showcasing respect to your employers and to the rest of the league. You know, that you won't bend over and just do whatever that anyone wants you to do. So it's a tricky situation. Again, we'll see. It seems like every day the news can't keep up like this. Every day,
it's
something
brutal.
New. That's the one thing, man. The Jets will have to really respond and say something eventually.
Yeah, what I'd like to see is just the Jets. God, I don't even know. I don't want them to cave to Jamal. I don't think they will. I think what's going to happen is they're going to get their value from him, or they're going to hold on to him for the year, and then or maybe not the year. I guess till the trade deadline when his value is going to be at theoretically his highest at that point. I don't know. I just don't know what to think. I think part of this culture change with the Jets, with Joe Douglas and him drafting guys and not overpaying guys in free agency, you almost have to let the contracts that are like too beefy on the Jets, that are from outside the organization. Like, I understand where Jamal's coming from, where he's hurt, that, you know, Tremaine Johnson, CJ Mosley, Le'Veon Bell, all these outside guys can make the money. But when it comes to our own free agents, we don't want to pay him. We don't want to pay Leo. We traded Leo. We don't want to pay Robbie Anderson. We let Robby walk. We don't want to pay Jamal right now. Like, I get the frustration. I understand that part of it. It feels like we almost need to reset that portion of it to let our own guys make the money. Sort of, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, no, you can understand Jamal's frustration, and he deserves to be paid. I think he is the best safety in the league. I do. He can, and what he did, the jump he made from rookie year to year 2 in terms of coverage, in terms of deep safety play, was huge. He's excellent. But he's got to understand that was a different regime that paid Mosley and paid Bell. That's a different regime. Do you want to win, or do you want to harp on the past with the previous regime? But again, we need more information. It's impossible. The Jets fan has every right to be upset about how Adams has handled things, but at the same time, the Jets fan needs to be filled in on exactly what happened more before they truly evaluate things.
Well, I don't know if you saw the thing about Jamal Adams. I think it was on Twitter where he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, the truth will come out. So I'll let the truth be known like later today." That was like 2 days ago now at this point.
Yes, and it didn't come out, and he didn't say anything, which is very interesting. It's like Kristaps Porzingis all over again.
Yeah.
for Jets and Knicks fans.
Mhm.
It's literally the same thing. When KP skipped the exit interview with Phil Jackson,
Yep.
and people rationalized it. Oh, it's no big deal. Who cares? Screw Phil.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the end. Once you start rationalizing poor behavior, it turns into something else down the road. You don't realize it, but then it turns into something else. And it works both ways, player and organization. It works, on both sides. So I think fans, they have every right to be emotional because Adams is doing it the wrong way, using social media, but still understand there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more to process and fully take in.
Yeah, and look, I don't think the Jets are entirely in the wrong. I think there's going to be some history with the Jets that is the reason or part of the reason why Jamal's acting the way he is. I mean, there's a reason why Kirk Cousins and Anthony Barr and Dante Hightower, none of those guys wanted to come to the Jets, and they just kind of used us as ways to get more money out of their current teams. And that does say something about the Jets. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Is it the ownership that players don't believe in, and it just kind of top down doesn't make sense? I don't know. It's concerning. I think it's enough to give it some thought. As a fan.
I'll say this: the structure, their hierarchy since Woody Johnson, since Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells came in and said, "All right, Leon Hess, this is the way you do it. I'm the boss, and everyone underneath me is underneath me, and I run the whole show." That hierarchy has worked for the majority of championship teams, where one guy runs the show and the head coach is underneath. Since Woody Johnson, the Jets hierarchy has the head coach and general manager on the same plane, the same field, both reporting to the owner. It's a tough situation in some cases, especially when the GM and head coach don't really know each other. Like Bowles and McCagnon didn't know each other coming in.
Yeah,
and if they don't
Idzik
get
and
along,
Rex, the same.
Idzik and Rex. Mangini and Tannenbaum knew each other. Look how that worked out. They were friends.
Yeah.
Back channels start happening. People get stabbed in the back. And when McCagnon got fired last year, what happened? Everyone lost their damn minds.
Yeah.
Gase was awarded interim GM, which no one wanted. No one should want. But that's what happens. It's chaos. So from that respect, I don't think it's a good setup. But Douglas and Gase have been working well together. And Douglas, as opposed to previous GMs, does have final say on the personnel. Absolute final say. So from that respect, Adams has to look at that and say, this is a change for the better.
Yeah.
And Douglas has final say, and he's really putting in a plan where he's getting dogs, but not dogs that you recognize. He's getting dogs on the O-line. He's getting dogs in the gritty areas, the depth, not the superstars like the NBA. So I think Jamal just fails to recognize that the change really did happen.
Yeah, it's part of it is being young. I know I've in my early 20s, I certainly fired off a message or did something that I'm, probably regret this time around. And I would like to believe, in a year's time, Jamal's probably gonna be like, you know what, I probably didn't handle that right, or at least the apologist in me wants to believe he'll feel that way.
I think so too, but he's in that mode. He'll do whatever it takes to get his way. And until he does, I think more to come for sure. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I'm going to jump on the phone calls. We'll try to get a few more calls in here. Can I steal you for an additional half hour? Take it right to 10 o'clock?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. Guys, if you've not followed Robby Sabo, down below in the description of this video, all his links to all his social media are there. Give him a follow. Great Jet fan. Great content creator. Carlos, what's up, brother? Welcome to the cockpit.
Hey, what's up, Ryan, man? Big fan. I'm out here in California.
Oh,
I didn't
nice.
change my schedule to try to catch you guys.
So what is it, 6:25 out by you now?
Yes.
Wow. It's calling from California. So what's on your mind? You got to keep it short because I got to try and rattle it off to Robby. He's not going to hear me. He's not going to hear the call.
Of course, man. Of course. I just want to say big fan, and I honestly agree with you guys. I believe that Adams, at this point, there's no point of saving it. Even if he comes out with a public apology, I think at this point it's just best that Joe keeps doing what Joe is doing to take us on the right direction. And at this point, when Joe is saying that they still want to keep him, let whoever wants him come in and make the highest bidder the best that we can get. Let's just get rid of him. There's no way that I could see the Jets moving forward, especially with him liking these posts from other people, editing him with the Cowboys things and what he said with that fan in the with social media when they asked him, "Hey, are you coming to Dallas?" and he said he's trying. At that point, honestly, I just believe that Joe is taking us in the right direction. There's no way of going back. But thanks, I appreciate it, man. I'm a big fan, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Awesome. Thank you for the call. So not so much a question, but just more a comment about how he likes what Joe Douglas is doing, and he doesn't want he likes what the Jets are saying too. He likes that the Jets want to keep Jamal. He wants a team to come in and overpay for Jamal. That's kind of where he's getting at, and I think he's spot on with it.
Yeah, I think the way the Jets have handled their business has been the right way. But don't assume what their true intentions are. The public game is always different from what the true salary cap game might be. And you got to play it that way.
Yeah, I think they're saying the right things. I wonder if teams know the Jets are probably not going to re-sign Jamal. I think that's kind of where a lot of fans are probably at this point. So will a team actually be willing to overpay for Jamal? Is there going to be a bidding war for his services? I like to believe there will be.
It'll be tough. I mean, everyone asked that same question about Le'Veon Bell prior to him holding out in Pittsburgh. And there really was no bidding war for him last offseason when the Jets signed him.
Yeah, I mean, part of that's going to be a player totally out of training camp and out of everything for an entire season. How does that player bounce back? Like, I expect I expect Le'Veon to probably play better this year. One, because of the offensive line, but two, just because he's back in football shape.
Right.
With Jamal, I don't know, man. I want to believe that there's going to be a bidding war for him. I think we're going to get at least a first-round pick for him, so I'm not, too concerned there. But man, it's going to hurt a lot if we wind up getting fleeced on a deal and we give him up for like a second and like a third next year or something like that.
It very well could happen because he's not raising his value. The way he's acting is lowering his value.
For me, that if we were offered like a second and a third, and that was like the high offer for Jamal, I'm letting him rot on the bench for $7 million. That's like
I would agree.
That would be my take.
I would agree. I think I would agree because you just can't. You can't win in that situation. You just can't do it. Maybe at the deadline. You accept a little less than you think you would get, but not before the season. No way.
Yeah, no. I completely agree with you. All right, let's go to the phones. Guys, remember, keep your questions short because I got to reiterate it to Robby because he's not going to hear what you're saying on the phone. And my memory, not so good. So I'm not going to be able to remember everything that's being said out there. Guys, if you've not followed Robby, all his links are in the description down below, so make sure you give him a follow. And if you want your chance to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk store, head down to the description down below. Head to the Jets Discord. Head down to the poll section and just comment Jamal Adams. You can comment Crybaby. I'll accept that as an answer as well.
That works.
Yeah. It works. It's all. If you want to come up with the best nickname for Jamal Adams, that'll be interesting for me to read as well. So any one of those is a valid answer for today's not really trivia question, but the ability to get into a raffle. All right, caller on the line. Who we got?
Call from
Eli.
Eli, what's up, brother? Good to talk to you again.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you, at like 6:30 Central Time, Jamal Adams tweeted from his Twitter account, basically in response to a Marcus May tweet, because he said he's getting fake love since the Jamal Adams thing, which I think the Jets fan base has always been a fan of him before this, but that's not the point. That he tweeted that he's going to miss balling with him.
Yeah, he's basically saying he's already out the door is the gist of it. I got that way. Like he already knows Jamal already knows or thinks he knows that he's not playing for the Jets again.
And I'm looking at the comment section, and all these people from before, I used to see all these Jets fans saying, trade him, it's fine, we'll get picks. Now I see all them, keep him for 2 more years, franchise him as much as possible, Let him suffer. And it just makes me crack up that he's just digging himself a grave. All right. Thanks.
I completely agree. Thanks, Eli, for the call. He's saying, Eli was talking about the tweet that we mentioned earlier on the show about Jamal responding to Marcus May's tweet saying, "Oh, I'm getting all this fake love right now." And Jamal says, "Oh, it was great playing with you. You know, no one's better than you," or whatever the tweet exactly said. Basically saying that Jamal doesn't plan to play for the Jets ever again.
Yeah, it's his strategy, and he's going all in. He's going as hard as ever. Let's get everyone to hate me as much as possible, and then see where the chips land. Interestingly, we haven't seen a Jets player, Jets teammate, say anything about the situation, right?
Yeah.
Not one teammate has, said anything. There haven't been opportunities, but it is a little interesting that not one teammate has referenced it or got his back yet.
Yeah, I feel like May's the closest thing we've got. Like that fake love comment is sort of, I guess, could be his way of like, all right, well, now that Jamal's not here, now you're showing me all the love that Jamal was getting before.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily supporting Jamal, but it feels like, I don't know. How do you think our locker room feels right now? Do you think they are more on the Jamal side, or do you think they're more on, the organization? Do they feel like they've been slighted by Jamal?
I think they, right now, and it's easy because they're not near it, they're completely out of the situation, and they'll stay out of it. If the organization if they felt the organization was 100% at fault, they would have publicly backed Adams in social media. Damon Harrison made a good point where he said, if Jamal were to return, players wouldn't care. It's just business. They would stay out of it. But when you cross that line, like we said earlier, they do care. It actually matters. So Antonio Cromartie, Ryan Clark, Trent Williams, who tagged him on Instagram.
Yep.
None of these guys are his teammates, and we haven't seen one of his teammates back him yet. And that should be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I want to know, and I guess we'll probably find out after this whole thing is eventually settled. You'll hear some more smoke and everything. Not having training camp right now does allow the players to kind of be in the backseat. They don't have to say anything. They're not in front of a camera. Man, I feel like I would be, maybe it depends on the age of the player and where you are in terms of your career, but I would feel pretty ticked off if I was Sam Darnold and I've been like, saying all the right things. You're really backing this team, and to watch the player that's supposed to be the defensive equivalent of Sam kind of undermine everything you were working so hard to do it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth, I think.
Yeah. Guys have different personalities. Not everyone likes everybody in the locker room, but trust goes a long way. And if a guy's not doing the right thing, in which all 55 guys have to do to get to a certain goal, that matters in football. So,
yeah, it's the ultimate team game. I mean, you have a turnstile like Wayne Hunter back in the day, spinning around. You're not gonna win many games. You have, any number of poor decision making. You really rely on the guy next to you, and when you feel like you might not be able to rely on, whether it be Jamal or any player, it's gonna be a detriment to the team, and that the player that's next to you now has to think about that as opposed to just their job. You want to be able to focus on just your job and give yourself 110%. All right, let's jump back to the phone lines, get a few more calls in here before we say goodnight to Robby. Make sure you follow him on social media down below in the description. And if you want your chance to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk store, head down to the Discord link in my description. Go down to the poll section and answer this. Who is the player that all Jet fans are upset about? You can answer Jamal Adams. You can answer any one of the nicknames. You could say the president. You could say, some fun nicknames, or share some memes that you guys have found. I enjoy those as well. Got another caller on the line. Who we got?
Call from
Jason Green.
Jason, what's good, brother? Welcome to the cockpit.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
Hanging in there. What's on your mind?
Well, I have a scenario for you guys. A quick one. what's your guys' thoughts if we kept Jamal for one more year and then trade him away? Because then that gives time for Davis to sit and learn the position and then be ready for next year, and then trade with Jamal next year so that then we can get assets.
All right, interesting question. So he's saying, what is our take on the Jets possibly holding on to Jamal for this season and trading him next year? Now, for me, the biggest hurdle is going to be holding on to Jamal, and what does that look like? And then also, this is a cheap year of rookie contract. That's where the value is. When you go into next year, now it's really not that much more. I think it's like $9.6 million or $9.5 million for his 5th-year option. But the rookie contract is the valuable thing. And last year at the trade deadline was probably when Jamal was gonna be at his highest value because you had 2.5 years of rookie 2.5 years of rookie contract at that point. I think if you trade him after the season, I think you could still get a first-round pick. You might have to eat the 3rd-round pick that you might have been able to get now in addition to the first. But maybe you let Ashton Davis learn. Maybe you get 100% out of Jamal, and maybe he boosts his trade value. I don't know. We have a lot harder schedule this year than last year, so there's a real possibility that Jamal doesn't look as good as he did last year.
Yeah, and what does Jamal Adams playing with the Jets look like if he returns? Does he have to say anything? Does he have to apologize?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the first question. Can it actually happen where he plays this year? Tries to bury the hatchet and still know he wants out and he will get out at the end of the year. Yeah, that could happen because that could be the lesser of two evils between that and holding out for him. So absolutely, it could happen for sure.
Jersey Joe, thank you for the super chat. He says, if Gase was fired, who would Greg Williams promote to offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator?
Greg Williams would be the interim. He's assuming Greg Williams would be the interim
head coach.
Yeah, and probably Dwayne Loggins would become the interim offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Oh well, he is the offensive coordinator. He would stick to being the offensive coordinator, but he'd become the de facto play caller as Gase is right now.
Yeah, and I think Greg Williams would still maintain play calling responsibilities on the defensive side. I don't think that's something he wants to give up. I love Greg Williams. I really do. I hope we can hold on to him even if Gase is let go at the end of this year because he's just an incredible defensive talent. But he's been on 12 teams or something like that. He wears out his welcome after 2 years.
He started with the Houston Oilers in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's how long he's been around, 3 decades now. He is one of those guys that has a short shelf life. But it's effective. It's an effective short shelf life.
Yeah, I would like to believe a lot of people, if Gase is gone at the end of this year, a lot of people have brought up Eric Bieniemy. I like the idea because I like that Chiefs offense. I'm a little concerned because I feel like Andy Reid is behind that offense. If Bieniemy has kind of learned enough from Andy Reid. The Andy Reid coaching tree is pretty strong from what we've seen.
It is.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. But honestly, I want Adam Gase to be here long term because that means it's working. I don't want to see Sam Darnold in his 4th system or 3rd system in 4 years.
Right.
That's not an ideal situation for your franchise quarterback on his rookie deal. We're wasting rookie contract. That's what's so frustrating with this whole thing.
Who did you want last offseason
as
the head coach?
My vocal opinion number 1 was McCarthy. McCarthy was the guy I preferred. I did like Matt Rule. Matt Rule would be my second guy, and I would have been okay.
My 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with McCarthy. Does he wind up winning with Dak and that Cowboys team while Rodgers, maybe he winds up struggling? And did McCarthy have more to do with that success of that Packers team than he's given credit for? Because everyone's always saying, he's got Aaron Rodgers, he's supposed to win. It's almost like the weird kind of argument with Belichick and Tom Brady. This is the first year we're going to see, all right, is Belichick going to be able to win 9-10 games with not Tom Brady at the quarterback position? Is Tom Brady going to be able to win a bunch of games with not Bill Belichick as his head coach and GM?
What do you think? What do you think with the Pats this year?
Man, I think the Bills win the division. I think they wind up going like 11-5.
I do think the Bills are overrated right now, though. People are calling for 13, 12 wins.
I don't think we'll see that high. Because I think the Jets could beat them. Like it's not going to shock me if the Jets come out and win Week 1.
Yeah. So I agree with you. Bills are probably atop the division, but I think people are going a little too crazy. I think the Bills, Jets, and Pats are right there. They're all in the mix.
Yeah, I think where the Jets lack and those other teams kind of move up is the head coach and the stability of the team. Like, you have the stability from Belichick. You have the stability from the Bills side of things. I don't trust Josh Allen as a quarterback. Like, I like him, and I enjoy kind of watching him, but I'm not going to lie, that whole playoff game where he's lateraling the ball behind him, and like the last like 2 minutes.
That was the worst play in football history.
Unreal. It was bizarre.
Stephon Diggs is not easy to keep happy.
No. I mean, is he going to be real happy? Kirk Cousins, one of the most accurate quarterbacks we've seen in the league. And now he's got Josh Allen, who's having a hard time hitting the broadside of a barn at times.
Yeah, I do not like the Diggs acquisition. I didn't think they needed it. I don't think it's the right move, especially for Josh Allen. And I didn't like the Josh Norman acquisition either. What do you... Why? Well, he's really not that good. So from that standpoint, I don't know. That could be a step backward that people aren't paying attention to. And for New England, quarterback play. If it's a disaster, it doesn't matter how good Belichick is. If it's a disaster, if it's average, if it's competent, they could still win the division.
Sure. I just want them to be good enough to not be in position to get like Trevor Lawrence or like any of these top quarterbacks. Put them at like 7-9, 8-8. Let them sit in quarterback purgatory for like a decade. Yeah. And then, like, hopefully Belichick's gone in the next few years and we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, that would be rough.
I've always felt like Belichick was the guy pulling all the strings because we got to see Matt Castle, we got to see Garoppolo, we got to see Brissett. And, like, I don't want to take anything away from Brady because he has been phenomenal virtually his entire career. And I'm just hoping... I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping it's Tom Brady that was really good. And now that he's gone, the Patriot dynasty falls apart.
Right. I mean, that Matt Castle year, they win 11 games, missed the playoffs.
Yeah, there was the Dolphins with Chad Pennington wound up getting it.
Yes.
Chad.
And it's, listen, Belichick is one of the greatest of all time. There's no question. His culture, which is a big deal, which Joe Douglas keeps railing about, culture. It is a big deal. You never hear noise out of New England with any player. You can't write them off, but at the same time, you can't go into the season pretending they're the same Pats. They're not.
You can't.
There's no way. They have a lot to prove.
Yeah, this team is going to be drastically different. Like as easy as our schedule last year, and as hard as you like almost want to say our schedule is going to be this year, the Patriots could wind up being a complete wild card and not being very good. And then the Dolphins, who knows what's going to happen? Is it Fitzpatrick or is it Tua that starts the season? The Bills, do they continue to play well with a harder schedule? Who knows? It's going to be very interesting to watch these teams throughout this year.
And the other thing is gauging schedules at this time is really impossible. Like you never know. You know, last year people had the Browns as the AFC North champs.
Oh yeah.
You know, you never know. The Rams were bound for the Super Bowl again. So the Super Bowl loser usually takes a step back, which means that week 2 San Francisco 49ers game could be an easier game than you think. Doesn't look it, but you never know. That's the thing. You never know what it looks like by the time it comes.
So what do you think about the Jets? And so it's weird. Last year, the Jets had some really poor home attendance in terms of Jet fans being there with Dallas, with Pittsburgh, with the Raiders, with the Patriots. This year, if there are no fans in the stands, you're going to Arrowhead, you're going to Seattle. So all these like games that have that 12th man in the crowd may not have that home field advantage the way they normally would. Do you think that could be an advantage for our Jets?
It could be an advantage because the Jets are the one team who really, before MetLife, have never had a home field advantage. You know, since Shea, that really never has happened. So it could be an advantage, but I'd be shocked if they were playing in stadiums that were completely empty.
Yeah, I think
I'm not ruling it out, but it would shock me.
I think we'll get up to 50%. I think they'll figure out some way to seat families together, and then put 2 seats between other people, or I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because I guess we could go into that topic with Clemson getting 21 cases of COVID with their team. What does that look like with an NFL locker room when one of those players gets it? How many players are quarantined, and how do you move forward?
Right.
Do they expand rosters for this year?
Does everyone freak out? Does everyone stop training camp?
Yeah.
I don't know the situation, because our country can handle cities different because they're cities, but you need all 32 franchises to make the schedule work.
Yeah.
So if one team is out of commission, what do you do? I don't know. And it's scary to think about, to be honest, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's
fascinating. The whole everything that's going to happen because of coronavirus for this year, not even just like the way teams practice, but the salary cap for next year. They're talking about it possibly going down with no fans in the stands, since the salary cap is based on the league revenue.
Yeah, Jamal Adams doesn't care. He wants his money.
Yeah, no. Well, that's another thing. It's like, yo, Jamal, we're in the middle of the pandemic. We have no idea what our financial situation is next year. Like, you got to give us some time. Give us a year, and we'll figure out. We want to make you the Jet long term.
That's what we have to hear the Jets say.
Yeah. I hope that's what we do hear them say.
That's what we have to hear the Jets say. Our intentions were to send over a first contract in January or February, but COVID hit. That's the report right now. That's the message right now, but it hasn't really been confirmed. That's what we kind of need to hear them say.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this a little bit before the stream, and if any of you guys know in the chat if this is true or not, let us know, because neither one of us could kind of figure it out. You're not allowed to renegotiate your rookie contract until after your 3rd season. Does that mean after the end of the football season, or does that mean after the end of the NFL calendar season, which is in March? So if Jamal was expecting a contract offer in January, are the Jets even allowed to offer that contract in January? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't think he's allowed to actually start negotiating until the middle of March. Or at least that's how I read it.
I honestly don't know. And when we were talking about it, I didn't know the answer. But I would be surprised for him to make that mistake.
Yeah.
Publicly. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
It's a weird one. V-Man, thank you for the super chat. He says, Jets haven't had a stadium to their own since 1961. Well, yeah, 'cause they were sharing the stadium, sharing Shea, right?
Oh, you're not counting the Mets? Right.
Yeah.
Well, you could. I would count Shea.
I think so.
He's technically right, but I would count Shea because even though it was a baseball stadium, they were the only football team.
Yeah.
Beggars can't be choosers.
No.
So,
I don't even mind like I'm on the Jersey side. I'm not sure whereabouts you're located.
Jersey too.
Yeah, I like that I'm able to get to MetLife real easy, and I think it's probably better for us talent acquisition wise. Like, I don't think players want to live in New York City. I think living on the Jersey side is a lot nicer from a talent acquisition standpoint.
Yeah, they watch Sopranos. They know the deal where the best spots are.
Oh yeah,
it would be a disaster if they were still located in Hofstra.
Yeah,
it's so much easier getting down to Florham Park. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's. I like it a lot. I'm a fan of it. I love now that the old Giant Stadium is fully taken down. I used to be a season ticket holder. I was a season ticket holder until 2008, I guess. Whenever the first year of the stadium, the new stadium, was the last year we had tickets. Or we didn't have tickets for that first year of the new stadium. And
they closed it down in 2009, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the first
Bengals
Sanchez
week
year.
17.
Yeah, I think it was the first Sanchez year was the first year in the new stadium. I think Favre's last year was the last.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that. I don't remember seeing.
I think it was
Sanchez.
2000. I think it was 2009 was the last Giant Stadium year. Brad Smith no shoe in week 17, and then 2010 open MetLife.
Oh! I gotcha. Yeah. Okay. You're right.
I think.
I think that is right. That seems like that makes sense. Yeah, man, it's been a while since the Jets have had something to call their own.
Yeah,
and
it's been a long time.
I don't know. I mean, I think the Jets and Giants are one of the only franchises that didn't have to use taxpayer money to build their stadium. I'm pretty sure they were entirely funded by both franchises.
Yeah, remember the West Side Project? The West Side Project almost happened in New York. That would have changed everything.
Dolan shot that down real quick.
Dolan destroyed it. Francesa on WFAN trying to badmouth it every chance he got.
Yep. Yeah, it was the whole Cablevision thing, right? They didn't want to compete with another stadium or another arena.
Correct. They would have returned to New York.
Yeah. Now, do you think that do you know anything about the Jets' lease in MetLife? Like, is that something that's supposed to be up in 2023, maybe?
There is an out in the lease. I forget the year. I was talking about this with someone during the season, and there are rumors that the Jets do intend to exercise the out and look for a place in Queens. But again, they're just rumors, so I do not know. I have no idea. But there is an out in the lease. I know that for sure. I don't know what year it is.
Now, do you think the Jets and Giants missed a golden opportunity to name that stadium either JetBlue or Green Giant? They could have wombo comboed it. I know neither one of those companies probably have enough money to actually back a stadium, but
they could have comboed it. It would have been interesting. The Snoopy Bowl is interesting enough. Let's go there.
I wish they still had the Snoopy Bowl. They still kind of do, but it's like not called Snoopy.
But it's week 1, so it's not really, that week 3 tradition is gone, completely gone.
Man, what game on our schedule this year are you most looking forward to? We're versing AFC West, NFC West, plus is it the Texans?
I'll tell you this. I wish the Vegas game was in Vegas, but it's in MetLife. I wish the Raiders was on the road because I would have liked to check out that stadium.
Yeah, I'm almost glad it's not, because if we're not getting fans in the stands, it would kind of suck to see that stadium half full. True. But I was supposed to get married the end of May. We pushed it back a year because of everything that's going on.
Yep.
We were talking about doing, as a loose thought, my bachelor party for the draft in Vegas as the first thing that's going on. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Now the Pro Bowl is supposed to be held in Vegas for next year. So maybe we'll go out and do that. But
that's not a bad idea.
I think the Jets are supposed to play the Raiders in Vegas in 2 years. I think it's 2020. Or maybe it's 2023.
Next time they play the AFC West, probably, right?
Yeah, I guess if we...
Oh, no, they play the AFC West this year.
We play the AFC West this year, so I think next time we finish at the same level. So if we both finish in second, we play them in Oakland, or in Vegas the following year.
That, and also then in 3 years, it switches. They play the AFC West every 3 years.
Yeah, and then it'll rotate. So that would be 2023 would be the next time we're officially there, unless something kind of happens before then.
And then they got 2 LA dates this year, which is interesting.
I think they're close to each other too. Are they back? They might be back to back.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Now I gotta look this
the Dolphins are back to back with the bye in between. That's the first time that happened.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that happens in a long time. And everyone's talking about how difficult the schedule is. I would say the Niners game week 2 is the most interesting right now, because it's at home and it's against a great talented team. But after that, the Colts are good for sure. You got the Broncos, the Cardinals, LA Chargers. That stretch right there is not terrible. Colts, Broncos, Cardinals, Chargers. They could make hay there.
Yeah. You don't know what the Chargers are going to be without Rivers. You don't know if the rookie's going to wind up starting this year, if Tyrod Taylor is going to be the quarterback. We saw the Jets beat up on Tyrod last year, or what was it, 2 years ago when Sam went against the Browns.
Before Baker made his debut.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. The schedule isn't as difficult as people think, but time will tell.
Yeah, I think so. Eddie DeJesus, thank you for the super chat. He says, aliens definitely exist. Not exactly sure where that came from, but I agree.
They do.
They're out there somewhere.
Yeah, they do.
All right, we got 5 minutes left. Let me go over to the Jets Discord, and we'll kind of take a look at how many people were commenting. Let's see if we got any interesting names. I don't think I got any. Everyone just commented Jamal Adams. You guys are so boring. Come on, give me something fun to talk about. All right, let's give me a number. Robby, you give me a number 1 through 5, and then I'll ask the chat to give me a number 1 through 10, and then I'll pick a winner based on those numbers.
4.
All right. I got 4 from Robby. Chat, give me something else. 1 through 10. Let's see. There's a little bit of a delay from when I say that to when. Oh, we got a 6. Okay. 36 is not 1 through 10. Come on, Eddie. What are you talking about? All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 5. All right. Oh, well, I'm going to assume this is not our offensive left tackle of the future in the Jets Discord, but Mekhi Becton, you are going to be the winner of today's hat, shirt, or mug giveaway. So message me on Discord, and I will get your information, and I'll send you a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Discord or from the Jets Talk store. Robby.
Yes, sir.
Any last words for the fans out in the cockpit? Plug yourself.
JetsXFactor.com. Spelt just as it reads, JETS, xfactor.com. Check it out. Michael Nania, analytics, me and Blewett on the film, access. I'm on the scene once the season starts. Hopefully, we're allowed to be on the scene. We don't know what the media is going to be looking like. We'll be in the locker room. I don't know what it's going to look like. Hopefully, it's back to normal. But yeah, check it out. In analytics, film, we try to do this stuff, the nitty gritty stuff that's really hard to do. That takes time. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope I can have you on
Jets
in the future if you
anytime.
Want to grace us with your presence again. Guys, if you have not followed Robby, down below in the description, the links to all his channels are down there. So make sure you give him a follow. Robby, thank you so much for joining me tonight on The Cockpit. And I look forward to having you in the future. Guys, that's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back here next week at 8 o'clock answering all your phone call questions and everything. This is Jets Talk, signing off. JETS.